Okay, welcome to this very brief introduction to Social Systems Lab and what we do. I think a good place to start is with this notion of tools over rules. And we like to say here at the lab, the notion that it's not really rules that changes culture or changes society, but tools. We can see that throughout history. Whenever we have a great technological change like industrialism, society quickly has to scramble to adapt. And that changes our relationships. It changes pretty much every part of our life. The Gutenberg printing press also changed life massively. So technology changes culture way more than culture changes technology. Sorry, philosophers, but engineers actually are the driving force of human development in many ways. Something else we can observe from this is that we tend to scramble to deal with what just happened, because some kind of catastrophic transformation happened, and everyone who was living off farms now had to go in and try to find jobs in the city, in pretty unhealthy environments in the factories of the early industrial age, and etc. etc. So we kind of, as a society, are always reeling from the last technological shift that happened to us, and we're always sort of trying to figure out how to deal with what just happened instead of looking at where we should be going and figuring out, well, where do we want to go with this technology? So in a sense, it's like we are constantly moving backwards into the future. Sounds like a movie, doesn't it? We're looking behind us at what we're trying to deal with while we're backing up into where we're going, and we're not turning around and figuring out where we want to go. And I would say that is one of the core ideas behind Social Systems Lab, is to actually figure out where is it we want to go as a civilization? Where do we want to go as a society? What kind of civilization do we want? And once we figure that out, we can start figuring out what kind of tools we need to build that will nudge us in that direction. So tools that will work with our human nature and will incentivize the kind of behavior that will lead to the kind of culture that will sustain the kind of civilization we want. So that is pretty much what we're trying to build here at Social Systems Lab. And we can also conclude that of the governance technologies we have today, they're pretty outdated. They're like between 50 and 100 years behind the curve, and things are happening very quickly. So our current governance systems nationally and globally are very badly equipped to actually deal with the kind of challenges we are currently facing. The technology that is driving us right now is almost entirely for-profit technology owned by private companies, and there's like nothing wrong with private companies or for-profit. That's just a part of the broader ecosystem. But these proprietary technologies are not designed to solve grand problems. They are much more granular, and they are also not designed to make humans happy or fulfilled. They are designed to make a profit, which means that humans will never be the end of a for-profit business, but rather a means towards an end, and the end is the bottom line, which is the profit. So if we want to create technologies that actually can take us where we need to go and help us manage the complexities of civilization, we need to design technologies that are open source, decentralized, mimic nature in many ways, that make us more anti-fragile, more connected, and all the other good stuff. So we need to build open source technologies that are freely available, which is also what we do at the lab. And the third thing I think worth mentioning, I said the third, I don't know, but another thing worth mentioning is this concept that we call custodial capitalism. So capitalism is often seen as an ism or as a ideology or an ecosystem that's sort of in balance with itself. I'd say that's a fairly erroneous way of understanding capitalism. It's much better to look at capitalism as a tool, like you would look at a hammer or a saw. It's good for certain things, it's really bad for other things. It needs something to balance it out. It needs some kind of custodial force to help rein it in, because everything in nature is in some kind of balance, some kind of equilibrium. And that's the notion of custodial capitalism. I don't want to dive too deeply into that, but I'd like to say that we are trying to find ways to explore that within the lab and within the tools that we build. One of the tools we're building is the altruistic wallet, and the way that works is basically in our case, of all the surplus we make, because we're not for profit, we've no need of bonuses and yachts and all the other kind of stuff that tech entrepreneurs seem obsessed with. And instead of pulling these resources out of the ecosystem, what we do will be returning them into the ecosystem in the form of altruistic dividends. And that is also one of the driving purposes of Social Systems Labs, to raise funds for open source projects. So that was a broad summary of what we do. You can read much more in detail about what we do on the website. If you are inspired, you'd like to work with us, or you've got some ideas, or you'd like to help us out, or whatever reason you'd like to get in touch, please use the contact page, and we'll reach out to you as soon as possible, and let's see what we can do and what we can co-create together. Anyway, looking forward to chat.